12 o'clock on your Monday morning, afternoon now, I guess. Welcome into the halftime show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford will be along with me in just a moment. Oh boy, what a difference a week makes, huh? You know, we came in here last Monday off of a win. Don't forget, off of a victory. That didn't feel like a victory. South Carolina squeaking by Old Dominion. And look, we're in the reactionary business here. There's a reason we call this Reaction Monday, because we take what we see on a given Saturday or whenever a game is played, and we come in and give our thoughts. And for a team like South Carolina that had changed so much in the offseason, the one-game sample size that we had against Old Dominion didn't leave us feeling all that great. Felt pretty good about defense, but even that was a bit of a grain of salt approach, because that was certainly not the most high-caliber offense in the world, and the offense certainly left a lot to be desired. So we were apprehensive going into this weekend. If you looked at our picks on Gamecock Central, I think Veltri and you were the only ones that picked Kentucky to win the game. And we weren't wrong for thinking that, because what we saw from Kentucky in their abbreviated game against Southern Miss looked a whole lot better than South Carolina. And Carolina, as a motivating factor, used that this past week, had a great week of practice, and went out there and blew the doors off of Kentucky. This is a game that we talked about so much in the past decade, being tight. 7-point game, 3-point game, 10-point game, just a continual tooth and nail four-quarter slog, because that's what this game has become. And for Carolina to go in there and make that kind of statement, huge, huge victory. Well, we're all feeling a whole lot better on this Monday than we did last Monday.
It's funny. You look back at this, and look, it was a hell of a win. That's basically it. It was just a hell of a win. You went in, you beat Kentucky at their own game. You out-physicaled them. You basically broke their will.
Oh, yeah.
You broke their will. I mean, you took a team that their calling card is physicality, and you broke them. And if nothing else comes from this game, to be able to sit in that locker room and say, you know what, we beat them at their own game, and we snapped them. Because Kentucky, I mean, my favorite, you and I were talking about this on Saturday,
which we finally broke our losing streak at O'Hara's.
Woo! I credit us with breaking the streak.
I credit it to the brownie and ice cream thing that we had.
But how good was that?
That was the magic.
That thing was ridiculous. So we finally get a W at O'Hara's. Thanks to folks at O'Hara's for contributing to that. And we're sitting there, and they interview Stoops. ABC interviews Stoops in the beginning of the fourth quarter. This is embarrassing. We got to get it together. We got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We got to quit making these mistakes, penalties. We got to get ourselves together. We got to blah 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 blah. First play after that, pick six. It's like, hey, Mark, it worked.
They listened.
Way to go, Mark. And we'll hear Mark Stoops' opening statement on the show here today, because they are dumbfounded what happened to them on Saturday.
And it's so funny how you can go from a fan base, and look, we talked about it all week, but like Kentucky, they are feeling good about themselves. They're talking about, they're booking their tickets to Atlanta. They're engraving the playoff national championship trophy. They went from thinking they're on the cusp of the greatest season they've ever had to talking about Stoops' buyout on Saturday night.
Well, the thing is, they're going, okay, where's game day going to be this Saturday for the Georgia contest? After Kentucky, beat Georgia here at Kroger, how are we set up for the college football playoff run? I went on a show for fun. We, our sister cluster, we have our sister stations in Myrtle Beach at 100.3 the game. Well, one of their music stations, the morning guy asked me to pop on, and it's a different vibe than doing this. We're having some fun with it. And then he made his pick. He said, and he's from Kentucky. That's another reason why I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
He picked 35-10 UK. And you know what I did for fun? I picked 50-0 South Carolina because I'm playing around.
Sure.
And I texted him today, and then I gave a real prediction.
Yeah.
It was sort of just like my one on Gamecock Central. And I said to my joke, I said, my 50-0 was closer to the real prediction. You know that, right? And he just said, dark times in Lexington. So, yeah, they were overconfident is an understatement of what they were going into Saturday, which is interesting for a program with very little successful history. But they really loved themselves some them
for
going into that game on Saturday. and the wreckage that South Carolina left to the Kentucky football program and that fan base.
They cleared out the stands before the game was over.
Oh, well, when did they show that shot? And
That was like early fourth quarter.
You and I were like, hey, look at that.
Yeah. I mean, Jack was there. He's like, yeah, the student section was empty before the game was even close to over.
I just nothing but props to what South Carolina did on Saturday. And let's start with, look, and we'll play the cut from Shane in a little bit. Look, man, when you win like that, flex.
Totally.
Go for it. I appreciate it. I think you should enjoy your moment and bow it up. And we'll play the cut about the narratives and stuff like that in a little bit. But I've learned something, and we talked about this last week. We were trying to look at this thing from all angles last week. And one of the angles was, it seems like whenever the fan base and the media and pretty much almost everybody in this area gives them very little shot to win, or they're coming off a performance that left everybody shaking their head, for some reason, that's when they bounce back. I think I'm going to start calling it the Beamer Coaster.
Okay.
Shane's first year, they get whooped by A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Lost by, 30 to A&M. Mm-hmm. Next week, come home and truck Florida. Ran over them, ran for like 1 billion yards and beat Florida. End of the season that year, lose to Clemson real bad. I believe here.
Was that 30-0?
Yeah, the 30-0 game. And then you beat a double-digit favorite North Carolina in the bowl game with your 7th-string quarterback?
Yeah.
2 years ago. Get embarrassed in the swamp. Miserable performance. Nobody gives you a shot to beat the juggernaut that is Tennessee, who, by the way, is juggernauting their way to the college football playoff. You were hoping they wouldn't put 100 on you. And you whooped them. And then the next week, you snap Clemson's home win streak. So again, it just feels like when this program is coming off, what everybody will say is, the worst performance of this or the worst performance of that, or, wow, I've never had a win feel like a loss before like that. And most people are picking against you. Look at our Twitter polls.
Yeah.
The fan base had very little hope.
And we weren't wrong for thinking that.
No, not at all. And look what they did. So I think there's something there for that, because it's been going on now through Shane's tenure, and it's not a criticism at all. It's a compliment to be able to, when you seem to be at your worst,
sure,
you know how to get in there and get it turned in a week. And that's a thumbs up. Now, again, you don't really want to have these games that you have to come back from.
You don't want to have to keep having these low points, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, it seems like.
There is something about Shane and that staff and the culture he sets that they can get the stink of things out of their system quick. Shane and the staff come up with whatever motivational tool they're using to get those guys not only back on page, but get them to bring it like nobody's business the next week. And that's a skill. Like I said, you don't want to have too many of those you're coming back from, but that's a skill. And it is. It hit me. It was like, this is like the Beamer Coaster. It goes way down. It goes way up.
Listen, but before last football season, again, I came here in December of 22. Mm-hmm. Preston said, get ready for the roller coaster that is South Carolina football. And I did not understand what he meant. Yeah. And now that I've been here for over a year, I get it.
You see, I mean, it's really interesting how Shane and the staff, they do that. It's to their credit that you could, coming off of that Old Dominion, it was a win.
Didn't feel like it.
It didn't feel like one, and your offense was, not very good, and you barely survived, and your defense was excellent, but you gave up 2 big explosive plays for touchdowns. And if you're figuring, if you're going to play like that against Old Dominion, what are you going to do in Lexington? And to their credit, they showed us what they did in Lexington. They beat the snot out of Kentucky in every way, shape, or form.
And then that's the thing, going back to, Kentucky's cockiness going into the game. if you go in there and you win it by 3 points or 7 points, then, the other side's going to say, well, if this penalty didn't happen, if we hadn't dropped the ball here, dropped the ball there, they would have had excuses, right? When you beat them by 25, they're looking inward of like, my God, why is our team so bad?
Yeah, I mean, this team that barely beat Old Dominion came in here and they treated us like they were Hannibal Lecter and we were that poor professor. I mean, I think that's what I took away from it. Yeah, you won the game, which that is good enough, right? But you went in there and you beat them down.
You took their lunch money, you stuffed them in a locker, you took their car keys, and you got their girlfriend too.
I was getting ready to say, exactly. You did the whole thing. I was thinking you went in their house, you stole their TV and their jewelry, you took a leak on the rug, and you took their wife.
Pretty much. And then you graffitied the front door while you were on the way out.
It was, I mean, what South Carolina did to Kentucky, coming off of that performance against Old Dominion, I mean, you talk about how many people yesterday I saw walked up to me and said, didn't see that coming, but I'm glad I did.
Exactly.
And again, that's to the credit of this football program, all of them involved. That was to be able to spin yourself around and to be able to go do that when very few people thought you would. I think everybody on game day picked Kentucky. I do believe.
Except for McAfee and Phelps.
Did McAfee went for South Carolina?
McAfee and Phelps, and we know Michael Phelps is a enjoyer of the city of Columbia.
Yes, he is. He likes himself some Columbia. So, I mean, most people didn't pick South Carolina. And how much of that did Shane use as motivation? I don't know. Shane did bring up the line, which I thought was pretty funny. But it was a phenomenal victory. A phenomenal victory. Now, again, does your offense have to continue to get better and develop and grow? Oh, sure. You still have to. There are going to be games where you need to bring more on offense than you even did on Saturday. But you brought more on Saturday than you did against Old Dominion. So the hope is you're seeing the progress. Lennar Sellers, you saw progress. You saw still some things that need to be cleaned up, but you saw progress. The offensive line had a tough chore in front of itself. And yes, the tackles did struggle, but the interior of the line did a really nice job holding their own. And even with the tackle struggling, Josiah Thompson had a key block on Rocket Sanders' run. That it was called a touchdown, then got overruled and put down at the 1.
Yep.
If you watch the replay, Josiah Thompson does a really nice job sealing to set up Sanders to make that run on the left side. And so the offensive line did get better. The receivers, Mazeo Bennett, Jared Brown had the one drop, but Bennett had a really nice game, and Brown, besides the drop, showed up. The tight end showed up in the passing game. Do they have to get better in pass protection? Yes. But at the end of the day, the offense was better than week 1 against a much tougher defense, by the way,
right,
in Kentucky. And defensively, I mean, you want to talk about four quarters of choke slamming somebody? That was what do you think is the most deadly move in your world of wrestling?
When Undertaker threw Mankind off the top of the Hell in a Cell with the choke slam, and everybody thought he had actually killed him.
Well, that's what South Carolina's defense did to Kentucky's offense on Saturday.
That's pretty accurate.
A flying choke slam. That was impressive. Look, Kentucky, Vandergriff was unproven. We even said, get heat on him and see how he reacts, right?
Yeah.
Well, we saw it. That offensive line's a bunch of veteran guys. They have receivers. Their receivers will get the chance to play in the NFL.
Correction, it wasn't a choke slam. He just tossed him off the top of the cell, but still.
Tossed. That's what it was. And Kentucky, I mean, look, that was an offense with some players, and South Carolina totally just destroyed them. We'll get back in here. Here's some Shane Beamer on the halftime show. Continue to talk about what was a glorious victory in Lexington, Kentucky next. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game.
Here's Sellers, wants to roll left. Got man wide open at the 6. Turning after the catch into the end zone. Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown, Mazio Bennett Jr. Oh, my goodness. The first of his career. And the first for 2024 for Lenora Sellers from 24 yards out on the road in the SEC. Boom, that's how you get it started.
There's Todd Ellis and Tommy Suggs on the call on the Gamecock Network. You heard right here, of course, on your home of the Gamecocks here on the game in Columbia, also in Myrtle Beach. Another thing about that football game on Saturday was receivers got open, and also they were schemed open.
Yep.
Which I thought was very interesting watching, some of these plays develop. I mean, South Carolina was flooding zones. They were doing things, when Kentucky was in man to try to confuse the defensive backfield of the Wildcats. That was the big question mark on Kentucky was their DBs. I mean, Hairston is excellent, but the rest of them, they can be a little hit or miss. And you saw some busted coverages in the back end for Kentucky.
Sure.
You saw some Carolina receivers wide open. And again, that's a thumbs up to the receiving corps and the coaching staff for scheming that up.
Well, and like you said, with them playing zone, you know that you're going to have those safeties waiting to try and bite on someone. And that touchdown right there, I mean, it was Jacobs that drew that safety away, which left Bennett wide open to be able to catch that ball and walk into the end zone uncontested. Yeah,
and then you saw on the touchdown to Simon, they did the fake pitch, which froze the linebackers and safeties to give Simon a chance to run that route, and they flooded that area on the right in that zone, because we always say this, your goal is to make defenders make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Kentucky was making a lot of bad decisions on the back end of the defense, and that is a credit to what South Carolina was doing.
Sure.
So again, is the offense better from week one? You still got to get better, but you saw some things you liked on Saturday.
Definitely.
Reaction Monday here on the game, 803-404-6100. Let's grab a quick call with Brian. Brian, thanks for hanging on. You're on the halftime show on the game. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Good. Hey, I've been listening all morning, and I tell you what, I'm a diehard. I know some of y'all know me. I'm a diehard Gamecock. I love it. But I tell you what, right after the game Saturday, I put on Facebook, I don't know what to say. That was my quote. But I said, go Gamecocks. It's a win. I'm still not there. Our offensive line, guys, these guys, we have the size, and I think we have the physicality to play with teams in the SEC. And I'm 6'4", 280 pounds, so I know what leverage is. These guys stand up like they're ready to play patty cake. I don't understand. So I'm still worried. Yes, what we did in Kentucky was fantastic. A lot of bright spots, a lot of stuff to build on. But and y'all all know, if our line's not playing well with these games we got coming up, we're not going to score at all.
No,
you have a dynamic running back, and we haven't gotten him the holes yet. And I don't know what's going on with Harbor. It just seems like we're wasting a talent. I don't understand it. But I'm not there. I tell you what, if we pull off this Saturday, y'all won't be able to shut me up come next Monday. I tell you what, I will love it. I will apologize to whoever I need to apologize to. I'm all in on Beamer, believe me. But I'm not there yet, guys. And as far as Gamecock fans, we are participation fans. We have a large majority of our fan base that'll get on social media and say, oh, y'all shouldn't be saying ugly stuff like that when we had the worst game for the offensive line. Oh, but they did so well. We won. Wow. Okay. But are we going to beat Georgia? Are we going to beat Alabama? No. You got to be realistic. And like I said, next Monday, y'all will not be able to shut me up if we pull off Saturday. Until then, I'm keeping quiet, guys. I hope y'all have a good day, and I hope they have one heck of a week of practice. See y'all later.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, look, like we said, the offense is still a work in progress. I see where Brian's going. I mean, the offensive line, the tackles especially struggled on Saturday against Kentucky.
And with Josiah Thompson, again, True
He's a
freshman.
freshman.
You know, he's going to have some growing pains, like you said, was able to get a good seal block there that sprung, Rocket Sanders for the touchdown. Casey Henry is really concerning me. And this is a guy who's been on campus for a while. We know he's dealt with the injuries, who hasn't gotten to play a whole lot. But this guy was hyped up to be a really good right tackle. He looked like he was on roller skates a lot of the day on Saturday. Like that is going to be a problem. And like Brian said, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, you've got a lot of really good edge teams coming down the line that if this doesn't get corrected could be a really big issue.
Yeah, I mean, Casey Henry struggled for 2 weeks. And Josiah Thompson, again, like we said, he's a true freshman. You really, in a perfect world, you don't want to play a true freshman at left tackle, but he won the gig.
Yeah.
And, he's going to have good moments and bad moments. Casey Henry he's had a rough 2 weeks. There's no doubt about it. And I tell you, I felt so bad for him on Saturday. A Kentucky line, Deion Walker, it was in the first half. South Carolina was backed up deep in their own territory. I believe it was a third down, and it was on the play where Josiah Thompson got called for holding.
Mm-hmm.
Deion Walker was lined up across from Casey Henry. He made Casey Henry look like Kevin Hart. He was ginormous compared to Casey, and he went by Casey Henry like Casey Henry was a flagpole. And just, God love it. Casey Henry had no chance against Deion Walker. I'm surprised Kentucky didn't do that more, to be honest with you. Move Deion Walker around to go after the edges. And that really, because Stoops such a good defensive mind, I was surprised. But Henry he's had trouble for 2 weeks, and again, Thompson's a freshman. The interior was much better this week, especially Simpkins and Lee.
Yep.
Torricelli, Simpkins, and Rashawn Lee, they had good. Kamar Bell, I believe, pass protection-wise, Bell held up. Run game still an issue for Bell. And what Brian said about a lot of it at times is, being aggressive and firing out in the run game. Pass protection, you're backing up, right? You're counter-punching.
Yeah.
But the run game is where you really get aggressive and go after folks as an offensive lineman. If you talk to most offensive linemen, you know what they love? You running the ball.
Yeah.
Because they can fire off and knock the heck out of people.
That's right.
And yeah, so far for 2 weeks, the run blocking has a lot to be desired. The pass protection's been better than the run blocking.
Yeah,
in the first 2 weeks.
Both Thompson and Henry were credited with allowing 4 pressures on Saturday, and Henry was contributed to 2 of the sacks that were allowed. So yeah, definitely some problems at tackle.
Yeah, the tackles had issues, but the interior did get better. But to Brian's point, yeah, the offensive line's got to play better. Yeah, I mean the whole offense does. But it was better than it was in week 1, and you gotta look at it. There's 2 ways. Brian is correct; it's got to get better. But you can also say, you know what? It did kick up a notch from what we saw in week 1, and that was a good thing.
We saw more poise from Lenora Sellers. Obviously, the receivers improved. You got Rocket Sanders, and he hasn't I don't think wowed anybody just yet, but he's done fine. Mm-hmm. So again, that's a work in progress. And when you have a defense playing as well as Carolina's defense is, it allows you the time that you need to get your offense where it needs to go. Yeah, and
you hit it. And Lenore Sellers looked more calm, looked more poised. Again, he's got to be able to feel that heat coming off the edge because
which he did evade a couple times.
Well, on the big throw to Mazio Bennett, it was pressure, but it was more coming in the middle than on the edge.
Sure.
He saw that pressure coming at him. He rolled to his left and made that throw to Bennett. For that, to me, that was one of the 3 biggest plays of the game was completing that 3rd and 14 to Bennett on the left sideline.
Yep.
Because then the next play, he hits Josh Simon for the touchdown. Does Sellers. Obviously, Brady Hunt drawing Kentucky off sides on the 4th down was big. The 4th and 1 stop of the Wildcats was big. So those were the big moments. I thought that 3rd and 14 isn't being talked about enough because, again, you hit that with heat coming in your face. You did get away, especially because the last couple series, you haven't felt the rush coming off your edge.
Yep.
And you got hit, and you're lucky that your teammates recovered the fumbles. Of course, the tight ends who missed the blocks also recovered the fumbles. And that's got to get better, the tight ends in pass protection.
Sure.
But there were things you liked much better than the week before. And the offense got better, and the defense, again, just flat out dominant. More dominant than even against Old Dominion.
Right.
I will get back in here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Let's hear from Shane Beamer talking about how great the performance was on Saturday in his postgame. That's coming up on the halftime show. We're here till 3 on the game. We're obviously talking about a beatdown that occurred in Lexington, Kentucky on Saturday afternoon. South Carolina all over the Wildcats. And by the way, it wasn't even as close as the score.
No, I mean, I said this earlier, when they went up 17-6, I think at that point in time, we probably felt pretty comfortable, like, yeah, they're going to win this game.
And honestly, when you and I were sitting there and when they were driving down and make it 24-6, we're like, it's 24-6. You can just, clear out the student section then.
It's over.
And then when Eamon Worry gets the pick six, then you might as well just start the buses.
Yeah.
If you're Stoops, just keep the clock running. Let's get out of here. So South Carolina, 31-6 over Kentucky on Saturday. We've been yipping a ton about that. And Shane Beamer will talk to the media tomorrow, 1 o'clock. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Shane Beamer speaking to the media. And obviously, Shane will talk about the win. Also, probably more talk about the win and a little bit of looking toward what's coming up this Saturday. Game day will be in town. 7 a.m. Gamecocks game day. I will still be probably laying in the parking lot at Camden Yards in Baltimore after the Springsteen concert.
Okay.
So you and Elijah
will hold it down.
Hold it down for us. Gamecocks game day at the party lot at Sound and Images at 7 a.m.
You can come hang out with us before going to college game day, which is going to be out at Gamecock Park.
Right. And then, of course, LSU comes to town. And undefeated. Oh, no, LSU has a loss. They're 1-1.
They did lose to Southern Cal. That's right.
So South Carolina undefeated.
Can they be 0-2 versus USC this year?
Ooh, look at you. Look at you with your little turn. Look at you over there. And by the way, who's in first place in the SEC?
That would be South Carolina. Who's in last place? Kentucky.
Shane Beamer, post-game. Let's get cut six, Tyler. Talking about the great performance his Gamecocks put on for 4 quarters at Kroger.
Tough environment, but against a really good team. That's a veteran team we just beat, particularly on defense. And to be able to bring a redshirt freshman quarterback in here to start a true freshman left tackle, have a true freshman receiver start in Mazio, Michael Smith, true freshman tight end, to be able to bring so many young players in here and to do what we did on the road, just so freaking proud. And that was a gritty performance by our guys.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Again, you beat Kentucky at Kentucky's game, which is physicality, grit, all those things. South Carolina out-gritted them, out-physicaled them, out-intensityed them. I mean, we can do this all day. And guess who had the better defense?
Carolina.
Yeah. And I think there was some things that were, and about with Shane, I guess, one way to motivate them was talking about, but people look at this game, the Carolina defense look as a JV defense compared to Kentucky's varsity defense.
Yeah.
And South Carolina went out and put their stamp on that baby defensively. And Dylan Stewart, what do you say?
Like, let me ask you this question. Is he the best freshman in the country right now? I know it's only been 2 weeks, but find me somebody else that's doing better than him in their first actual year of college football.
How about let's put it this way. Is there a freshman in the country, and there might be, because there's some freshman quarterbacks starting and some freshman skill position guys, and Dylan Stewart's not the only freshman defender. We would have to really look at this, Tyler, over this week. Is there a freshman affecting football games in America the way that Dylan Stewart is affecting football games for South Carolina?
Not any that I've come across to this point.
I mean, they showed the play and they showed the replay of basically Stewart going through 3 blockers.
Triple team.
Chasing Brock Vandergriff down for a pressure and an incompletion.
Yeah.
I mean, it was... I think of Greg McElroy goes, by the way, he's a freshman.
Yeah,
right?
Well, and that's the thing. When you look at his stats in this game compared to the last, he was only credited with 1 sack. But, the amount of times he was on top of Brock Vandegrift as he was letting the ball go or as he was flushing the pocket. And again, they just started running the ball a bunch of times because they knew they couldn't throw it. He affected the game in so many ways on Saturday.
Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard might not have had the grades they had against Old Dominion or the counting stats, but they still, and I'll use the word again, affected that football game.
Right.
And I'm wondering, too, with the pressure that the edges are bringing, how much is that now helping the interior? Because I tell you what,
Interior had a good day.
Saturday, the interior of the defensive line and the defensive backfield were phenomenal. Phenomenal Saturday. The interior got after it like nobody's business. And how much of that is when a team has to account and keep their eyeball on not just one edge guy, but two edge guys? How much is that helping now the rest of your defensive front? Because, look, TJ Sanders had a couple of moments in that game where he embarrassed the offensive lineman trying to block him. And, I mean, DeAndre Jules was very active from his defensive tackle spot. Tonka Hemingway had some moments. I mean, it just – because the edge, they're getting after it so hard.
Yeah, you have to account for those guys.
You have to account for them. And what is that doing to open up a lot of one-on-ones for the other guys?
Well, and here's the thing. You can't triple team both sides. You have to commit one side or the other. If you say, okay, we're going to try and stop Dylan Stewart, well, guess what? Kyle Kennard's going to come off the other end. So like, you have to pick and choose your battles. And again, when everybody, and especially, and Chris brought this up earlier, you look at the snap counts, I mean, they're rotating these guys in and out. Like, they're keeping these guys fresh, which is something they didn't have the ability to do a season ago. So when you get in the third and fourth quarter of these games, you can have a Tonka, you can have a TJ Sanders that have played 20 less snaps than they would have a year ago, so they're feeling fresh.
I'll say this, too. I mean, Kentucky, this game really ended after South Carolina scores the touchdown. The Josh Simon completion from Sellers for the 6. Kentucky gets the ball, and they have 2 positive plays called back with penalties. And they had multiple holding calls. And they just and they were just getting it was like South Carolina had 22 dudes on defense.
Yeah.
That really was the ending of the game in a lot of ways for Kentucky's offense to do anything. They were just smothered. And watching especially the third quarter, because South Carolina was getting after it so hard, how many times did Kentucky hold and it didn't get called?
Probably a lot.
You and I were watching a couple. The one time TJ Sanders, he got the hands to the face call, and he's talking to the official, and you and I were laughing because all the Carolina football players we deal with here.
He's so diplomatic.
Yeah, they all have all these great manners, and they carry themselves. You know, they're really impressive guys. The ones we have coming over here, and you and I were laughing, going, TJ Sanders has his hands on the official, saying, "Excuse me, sir. I understand the hands of the face penalty was called to me, and I did have hands upon the face. But can we please focus also on the fact that I'm being held repeatedly? Could you please help me, sir? I would appreciate that."
Thank you note after the game.
Right. I thank you for your efforts and everything you're trying to do. By the way, can I get you some Gatorade from our sideline? But yeah, there was I mean, because Kentucky, when you're getting beat like that, you got to start holding and grabbing.
Yeah, well, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly, because really what you're doing is saving the life of your quarterback.
Sure.
And so, I mean, they just got flat out whooped. I mean, what's left of the big blue wall?
Well, it wasn't very well built to begin with, apparently.
I mean, it was so impressive all the way across. Nick Emmanwori, I mean, he had a phenomenal game. He really did in the safety spot. He got the pick 6, but just he was just solid all over the field Saturday.
Kilgore got his interception. Vakari Swain was flying around out there.
Let's talk about Vakari Swain for a minute. First of all, he had the pressure on Vandegrift, and the one time, I think it was Swain, they did the RPO and didn't give the ball to the back, and Swain flat out destroyed the back in the backfield. The whole crowd went, ooh.
Well, there's the one time he looped around behind the handoff and still got a tackle for loss.
I mean, Vakari Swain played very well in his snaps. So, yeah, it was just what a phenomenal performance by that defense. Kentucky was helpless. And the one thing that told me that they had no confidence in throwing the ball, when Lenora Sellers threw the pick, and Kentucky had a 3rd and 4 in deep in South Carolina territory, you know what they did on 3rd and 4? They ran it.
Is that the same drive they went for it on 4th?
No, that was the drive they kicked the field goal.
That's right. Okay.
And then when it was a 4th and 2, Stoops had no desire to go for it. He took the points.
Yeah.
At that time. So he had no confidence in his offense at that point, A, to make a play in the passing game, and B, to make any short yardage. That's how much South Carolina got in Kentucky's head. that was it's one thing to beat them physically, but we beat you mentally too.
Sure.
And that's what happened on Saturday for South Carolina. All right. Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100 coming up, and more Shane Beamer. How about we'll hear about that physicality from the Gamecocks, and we'll get to your calls on a Reaction Monday 803-404-6100 halftime show on the Game. Next to the light. Time for our Firehouse Sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you get there, Tyler?
Yeah, Alex weighs in and says, I'm worried about the team listening to the hype and not going in with the same mindset as they did against Kentucky.
That's a legit concern. It is. I mean, again, you did what Shane Beamer teams do when it feels like, you came off a performance that not great, and everyone thinks, oh, geez, what's going to happen this week? Shane's teams, we've seen in the history of Shane as a head coach, they bounce back and surprise everyone. But I get the texter. Now everybody's patting you on the back and, talking you up and, oh, no, wow, I'll buy you your pizza at Village Idiot. No, don't. I got this. Oh, wow. You play for South Carolina? You single? I mean, all these things this week.
Yeah, you don't want them to let up because, look, LSU's going to be a tougher opponent than Kentucky was. And is LSU perfect? No, they have some inefficiencies on their team as well, but it's still a step up in competition. And again, you got the glitz and glamour game day is going to be here. You got a ton of national media that's going to be paying attention. Like, you are the center of college football this upcoming weekend, which is not something South Carolina has been a lot in the past decade. So, and especially when you think about the age of these guys, last time game day was here, most of them were in like elementary school. You know what I mean? Like, they've never known South Carolina to be this big of a deal.
So, I mean, you want to, I get that whole, I'm concerned about, not everybody getting too much into their own smelf. And I get it. I do. I understand. And that is a thing. That's what Shane and the staff will have to do this week to, A, you want to keep them confident, but B, you also want to keep them focused. So absolutely good. Excellent text, 803-404-6100. Real quick, our Twitter X poll today is about game ball. Game ball Monday. Who are you giving your game ball to after Gamecocks crushed Kentucky? Dylan Stewart, Lenora Sellers, Mazio Bennett, Nick Amon-Wari. Have you looked at this yet?
I have not.
Which one do you think?
Oh, I'd probably go with Sellers.
10%. Mazio Bennett, 12%. Nick Amon-Wari, 16%. Dylan Stewart, 61%, which I think is interesting. We did have a comment. Let me see what the comment is. Dylan Stewart putting pressure on even after being triple teamed is insane.
And that's really a fair point. I would go with Sellers from the standpoint of, man, he looked shaky. Week number one, a lot of mistakes, a lot of, shakiness overall. And you could see huge step forwards in his progression. Still wasn't perfect, still things to work on, but the difference from week one and week two for him was very noticeable.
Yeah, they do a thing on Pro Football Focus. It's adjusted completion percentage. And this week, and that's basically saying, did you throw the ball on target? Like within the, did you throw it on target, like, obviously right to your receiver, or did you throw it in the windows of being on target? And Sellers' adjusted completion percentage was 92%.
Yeah.
So the open throws he didn't miss, basically.
He overthrew the one to Mangrum, which was intercepted.
Right, that was picked. And then he made that throw in the end zone. And I was like, oh, my God. He tried to hit Simon in that small window, and there was like two Wildcat defenders there on the on that slant. And the minute he lets it go, I'm like, oh, God, no. No. But it was just incomplete. And I think, I don't know if it hit the ground first or Simon might have got a paw-ish on it or something. But, yeah, those are probably the two most questionable throws he made was the pick and that throw. But, yeah, Sellers much better on Saturday. Does he have to continue and grow and develop? Absolutely. But that was a good step in the right direction. All right, it's Reaction Monday, 803-404-6100. We got to get our buddy Gamecock Larry in here. Larry, thanks for calling the halftime show on the game. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing just fine. Gamecock Nation, we don't go on the field expecting to lose. We go on the field expecting to win. And all your Gamecock fans called last week, eat crow. We're going to be okay. Wildcat Sammy, I got your Gamecock there ready. Stop by. Get the picture. I'm going to put it on Facebook. Couldn't you see Gamecock Larry in Kentucky blue? But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Now I got a restricted call. Left a voicemail. Bayou Billy. I ain't never heard of Bayou Billy. But Bayou Billy, I'm going to let them know you. I done told you twice. I'm going to tell you again. Call me, leave your number, or call me at a restricted number, and I will take the 17 points, even though I won't need them. But I'll tell you what we're going to do to your Bengals when they come to town Saturday. Game day in town. Why? Bengals, bring it on, bring it on. We are ready to go. We're going to go 12-0, 2010 to go in 2024. Go Gamecocks. Love all y'all.
We love you too, Larry. Thank you, my man. Gamecock Larry laying it down. Ready for that Wildcat fan to put his Gamecock gear.
I said Game needs to do the featured story on him this week.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Get Jen Latta on it.
Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantica Windows and Doors on a Reaction Monday here on the Game. Great day for South Carolina. Not so great for Notre Dame. We'll get into that coming up. I hear some more Shane Beamer as well here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Halftime show. Reaction Monday here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, and we're reacting. You got to react. It's pretty good to react to a 31-6 beatdown on the road in the SEC.
Like I said, what a difference a week makes.
Yeah. Feels a little better today, doesn't it?
It does. It actually feels like a win. And one, like, again, it's one thing to beat them by 3 or by 7 where, you know, the other side would say, well, if this penalty didn't get called, if we hadn't dropped this pass, you know, they have their own excuses built in of saying, well, we should have won that game. You beat them by 25 points. You run their student section out before the end of the game, they're looking inward. And they're talking about, well, this might be the worst team we've ever seen. They're talking about buyouts. They're talking about, hey, when's basketball season? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what you and I were joking about. How many days till until Midnight Madness?
By like a month and a half. Not far away.
Yeah. And you don't have Calipari anymore to kick around.
By the way, over the course of their next 3 games, Georgia and Ole Miss. Have fun.
So you're looking at most 2 and 3, probably at the best.
Yeah.
Is what you're looking at.
And hey, Ohio, the Bobcats, watch out.
Well, screw with the Bobcats. How much like Kentucky fan base is going, man, I wish a dude would have went to A&M. But anyway.
Which also makes you wonder, what was A&M thinking?
Well, I said that from the beginning, not to be mean. I was just like, well, why would you hire a guy with that resume who, if you are connected any way, shape, or form in college football, you give him his props for what he's done, but you also understand there's a formula there.
Yeah.
That works at a basketball school, but you're going to bring him to a place that is thirsting to win big in college football? No wonder the AD took off real quick to Ohio State. Smart move. So anyway, Mark Stoops called it embarrassing. We're going to play Stoops' I haven't sent that to you yet, have I?
You need to
get that to
yes.
You. I will say we're going to play Mark Stoops' opening statement in his post-game presser here in a little bit. Shane post-game on Saturday. Of course, Shane will talk tomorrow 1 o'clock here on the game in Columbia. Shane Beamer, cut 13, Tyler. We've been sitting here talking about the physicality of South Carolina's defense and the Gamecocks in general on Saturday, basically beating Kentucky at their own game, physicality. Here's Shane talking about the physical nature of his football team in that beatdown in Lexington.
Yeah, I don't know if about their will breaking or anything. I know that I'll put our physicality up against anybody and our toughness up against anybody. We knew that it was going to, we said all week that this is going to be a street fight. And that was the exact words that we used with our team. It ain't going to be pretty when you play these guys, and there's going to be some ugly runs, and they're going to make some plays, which they certainly did today. And we needed to be gritty and physical and tough and composed and fight through, the adversity. But there's no question about it. There's a lot of talk about Kentucky's defensive line and front seven, and rightfully so. Zero is going to play in the NFL for a long time. 13 is a really good pass rusher. 54 and 2 are great linebackers. Our defense is pretty good too now. And there wasn't a lot of talk about our front seven. A lot of talk about our defensive line, and that group is really, really good up front, and they're veteran. Kentucky wasn't the only veteran defense out there today. We got a bunch of guys that have played a lot of football as well, and the perception of our defense, we played pretty good, is maybe not reality. We've played pretty good defense now here going back to last season, and I'm sure you guys are aware we've won 5 out of our last 6 games here at South Carolina. And I know it's easy to say, well, you won the games you were supposed to win and you beat the teams you were supposed to beat. 5 out of 6 is still 5 out of 6, and that's what excites me, is we're just scratching the surface of how good we can be.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk of Kentucky's defense. I think that I would believe now, again, when you're saying no one talked about South Carolina's defense, are you saying like nationally through the SEC? Because locally, all we heard about last week was how good the defense was.
Yeah.
And they were going to have to obviously go on the road and step it up against an SEC opponent with better weapons than Old Dominion. I don't think anybody here was demeaning what the defense did on Saturday against the Monarchs. Maybe that's the perception Shane's talking about, maybe nationally or with SEC media, but not here.
Yeah, no, we certainly focused on the defense and the high points of it. And I think a lot of people that aren't in tune with this program every single day are just going to look at the box score and say, hey, you gave up 19, but not really know how they got to that point. But yeah, we were aware of how well the defense played and, how significant that could be if they are as advertised from week number 1. And again, we saw that on full display. And I don't know if they're going to be historic. I don't know if they're going to serve up donuts each and every week like Debo Williams likes to talk about, but not a bad start.
Kentucky had one legit drive. Kicked a field goal. The other one was the short field off the interception.
Yep.
It's a hell of a performance by the defense on Saturday. One other thing about the defense, and let's give a couple guys some love too, as we're trying to give love to as many of these many defenders. Brian Thomas played really well.
Yep.
In his first action of the season, and another guy who played really well was Bengali Kamara. He was all over the place too when he was out there, and it's interesting when you watch, you see what this defense did. And this is why you can feel good about this defense moving forward through the season. Again, like you said, don't know if it's going to be historic. Don't know if you're throwing donuts on everybody. In this era of college football, good teams are scoring 30 points a game in their sleep.
Yep.
But this defense held Kentucky to 2 field goals. And if you look at the grading out process like Pro Football Focus does, 1, 2... Some of the lowest grades were to guys you kind of count on. Bam Martin-Scott and Demetrius Knight had the 2 lowest grades for Pro Football Focus because they missed some tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Debo Williams was like 19th in the Pro Football Focus grades for South Carolina. So there are 3 guys you were counting on, and they didn't grade out as well. Look, don't get me wrong. They were flying around. They just weren't making the plays they made the week before. But think about how good this defense was, and 3 guys you count on at linebacker didn't have the days they had in week 1. But guess what? Bengali Kamara stepped up and had a heck of a day in his turn when he got his reps on Saturday. So the depth is what we're talking about here, Tyler. You got depth on this defense.
It is, and that's the mark of a good defense when even your best players, and not saying that Debo Williams had a bad game by any means, but when they're not playing at their 100% best, you have other guys that step up and make an impact. Talk about DeAndre Jules, the guys in the interior of the defense there. Obviously, Dylan Stewart, Kyle Kennard had their days. Talk about the guys in the secondary and Kilgore and Eamon Wari, and then Vakari Swain, who, again, is a true freshman going out there and making plays. Like, you just have so many guys that can do a lot of different things on this defense that is going to serve you well as you get into these tougher and tougher games as the season rolls along.
Yeah, I mean, what the secondary did was so impressive on Saturday, because even when Blake Vandergriff had some time to throw the ball the few times, by the way, do you know how many the percentage of pressure he got for his dropbacks in this game?
57%.
Pro Football Focus had it at 64%.
Oh, God.
He was pressured on dropbacks.
Well, yeah, it felt like every time
it felt like 100%.
It really did.
It really did.
Because every time he was sitting back there trying to throw, somebody was in his face, making him uncomfortable. And I think Swain was on the blitz that forced the intentional grounding. Stewart obviously had him in the grasp when he threw the ball away after beating that triple team. Like, he was just constantly getting beat up. And that's the thing too, is like, Brock Vandegrift had a perfectly good debut game against Southern Miss last week. I don't know if his poor performance is more on him or more on the fact that his offensive line couldn't block for him. Like, if he goes out there, not this week against Georgia, but, against a Vanderbilt or something later on in the season and has another great game, then I think we might be saying, well, it's probably just the offensive line being bad. If you give this guy time to throw, maybe he's okay.
I think part of it is the offensive line just got whooped, and Vandergrift has never faced that kind of pressure as a starting quarterback. And and by the way, he was only blitzed 3 times. And I think South Carolina only blitzed Old Dominion 4 times.
Right.
Because you don't need to with all this pressure you're getting from your defensive front. You don't need to be being all exotic and blitzing. You can just drop 7 guys one time, and they showed the replay, and Greg McElroy went over it. South Carolina got massive heat rushing 3 against 7 blockers. Remember that one?
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, so when you're bringing that much pressure without having to blitz, that means your coverages are just better. So that's also helping. And like I said, the DBs were good. Snap count real quick to the point of depth, Tyler. Let's see. O'Donnell Fortune had over 50 snaps. DQ Smith had over 50 snaps. Also, Jalen Kilgore, I think, had over 50 snaps. Eamon Wari had 47. But the guys on the first 2 levels, I don't think anyone was over 40 snaps. Right. Out of any of them. Let me get up right here. Thomas had 25. Kamara 23. Jules had 25. Tonka had 37. Dylan Stewart 24. Gilbert Edmond 24. I mean, Alex Huntley had 30. You know, I'm just going down here. You look at this. Goodwine had 15. Kyle Kennard, 35. Debo Williams, only 36 snaps. TJ Sanders, 28 snaps. Bam Martin Scott, 34. Demetrius Knight, 30. So, like to your point, these guys aren't getting wore down because it's like hockey line changes.
By the way, Nicky Minwari named SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Kai Kroger, SEC Special Teams Player.
We haven't even gotten how good Kroger was on Saturday. Yep. You can start getting that dude punting again like he used to.
Right.
Yeah, Nicky Minwari had a phenomenal game on Saturday. So thumbs up to Nick.
I'm still getting used to him being 7, by the way.
Yeah, it takes a little getting used to.
Yeah.
All right, who didn't have a good day? Now, we talked about this last week when everybody's loving Notre Dame. What did we say that they've done under our boy Freeman?
Not a whole lot.
They've lost games in September they shouldn't lose. 2 years ago, it was Marshall got them in South Bend. Northern Illinois takes out Notre Dame. Let's hear Thomas Hammock, the head coach of Northern Illinois post-game after, which has to be if not the greatest, one of the 3 greatest wins in program history.
You know, I'm so proud of our kids, the coaches, just everybody. They believed. They believed. And we came here and got it done.
My man, cry all you want.
By all means, go right ahead.
What your crew did on Saturday, what were they, like 100-point dogs?
Oh, yeah, it was hefty, especially this is top 5 Notre Dame coming off of beating A&M
at College Station.
At College Station the week before. Like, I mean, and look, we know Notre Dame's got a soft schedule. It does not take a lot for them to make the college football playoff, but now losing this game, I'm not so sure.
Yep, that now they can't lose another game all year.
By the way, real quick, I read this earlier. NIU football coach Thomas Hammock told us that he told his team the night before the Notre Dame game, he said Rocket Ismail isn't running out of that tone. He said that nobody on his team had any idea who he was talking about. He said I had to switch it up to Joe Montana.
That's so good. That's so good. All right, in the Coach Freeman era, now they've lost that game to Northern Illinois. They should have won. Also, let's see, which game was it last year? It was the Louisville game. They got a lead on Louisville in Louisville and blew that one. And that's a game they should have tucked away instead of losing. And in 2022, there was the Marshall game. By the way, how ironic. Second game of the season.
I know.
They got beat at home by Marshall 26-21 to fall to 0-2. So Coach Freeman's had some slip-ups in the last 3 seasons of games that they either should have won or had leads in. They should have shut the door and couldn't finish it. So again, everybody loves Freeman. He's a heck of a recruiter. Looks good on the media guide. The moms think he's dreamy when he's standing around in the living room telling he's going to take care of their kids. Still hasn't shown me he's a high-level head coach.
Right.
But this schedule, they still could go unbeaten from this point on. This schedule's cake. It is absolute cake. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour on a Reaction Monday at 803-404-6100. Pretty good day for the Texas Longhorns in Ann Arbor. Also, it just showed you what Michigan isn't. That's coming up and more from, we'll get a little thoughts on TJ Sanders, from CJ Sanders. Nick Emenwari about film study about the quarterback, Mr. Vandergriff. We got that coming up. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do wonder what that does for his confidence going forward. Again, looked great against Southern Miss the week before, which is why people were so, hyped about what this team is going to be. It looks like this against South Carolina. Again, you've got two of the not only the best teams in the SEC, but the best teams in all of college football, defensively speaking, in Georgia and Ole Miss over the next couple of weeks. Like, halfway through the season, is his confidence going to be shot? Yeah, he came from Bogart, played single A private school football. And again, when you're 6'3", 210, 220, yeah, you're going to dominate against a bunch of dudes that are 5'6". You know what I mean? So that was always my concern with him coming out. They're like, okay, how does he adapt to playing high-level SEC football when you didn't really have the toughest competition in high school? And again, the one-game sample size that we have him in the SEC didn't look good. Still getting used to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How are you one of the top programs in college football and you can't have a quarterback in your roster that can throw a competent pass? Because Alex Orji was McCarthy's backup last year, but it was very clear when he came in those packages and stuff, Duke couldn't throw. Duke, they ran him for a reason. So this offseason, it was assumed he was going to be the starter, but it's like, hey, wait a minute. We don't have a passing game if this is our guy. So Davis Warren, I think, wins the job by default because he could throw it, kind of, but you saw on display on Saturday, it wasn't worth anything. And we talk about the top 10 team that doesn't end the season ranked. Well, Florida State for one, but I think Michigan's got a good shot of being that because going through the rest of the Big Ten schedule, that Ohio State game at the end of the year is looking like a bloodbath at this point. Yeah. Sure.
Back position is about. Whatever it is, Michigan's offense is a mess. And unless it gets a lot better quick, it's going to be a long year in Ann Arbor. And I just didn't understand that top 10 preseason rank besides the fact they have Michigan on their jerseys.
Well, it was like they're defending national champions. They get a degree of benefit of the doubt, but I think we all looked at that like you just lost one of the best coaches in all of football right now. You lost. And look, J.J. McCarthy wasn't a Heisman Trophy quarterback, but he was solid. You had a good running back in Blake Corum. You had a lot of pieces on offense that are gone now that you just couldn't replace.
So I just didn't surprise me. I'm not knocking Texas. Texas went in there and did what you got to do.
Sure.
They took care of business. They methodically whooped them. But to say, see, Texas is this or that, beating a depleted Michigan team doesn't make me go, wow. It just makes me say this. A good team goes in and handles that, and that's what Texas did. We'll see how good they are moving forward. They got a game against some team named Georgia, right?
They do.
I mean, I know that game's in Austin, but still, you got to play Georgia still. You got some games left on your schedule to show us just how good you really are. But you handled business like you should have on Saturday.
No, and they dominated Colorado State the week before. They did exactly what we thought they were going to do through two games, which that's as good as you can be right now. Yeah,
I mean, they did what you said. They won the two games they should have won out the gate, and they looked good beating them both. And they look better beating Michigan than they did against Colorado State in a lot of ways. So here is the let's get the first Texas touchdown in here real quick, Tyler. Basically, this game was over after the first score. You know, if I were Michigan, if I was our boy Coach Sharon, because he's not going to be the coach after this year probably, if this thing goes as bad as it could, I would have walked over to the sideline to Sark and I'd have said, hey, Bob, can we have Arch Manning for this game?
Yeah.
We need a quarterback. We borrow Arch.
It's very reminiscent. You remember like when Auburn won the national championship with Cam and he went on to the NFL, everybody knew like, all right, they're going to go back to being a mid-pack SEC team. And then the next calendar year, Gene Chizik got fired.
Right.
Same thing with Ed Orgeron. After that magical year in 2019, everybody knew like, well, they're losing all these superstars. They're going to go back to being an average to below average team in the SEC, which they actually ended up being worse than people thought they were going to be in less than a calendar or the next calendar year. Guess what? Ed Orgeron was politely asked to leave LSU. So this almost kind of goes on the same trajectory to me.
Yeah, you want to try to keep the players in a transfer portal era for consistency and continuity. You keep Coach Sharon, right? You keep Moore. And you're hoping nobody's going to leave because they love him.
Sure.
So you keep the lovable assistant coach who did step up when you were gone last year and coached in your spot.
Harbaugh was still coaching those games.
He was still coaching by his phone, please.
Yeah.
So I see why you did it, but he's probably going to be a one-year guy. Then you're going to go try to get a real coach to get you back to the level that Harbaugh had you. But you know, at the end of the day, Michigan was a good program, not a great program for a long time. They'll probably go back to being a good program, not a great program, unless you bring in the right coach to follow Coach Moore when he gets shown the door. That's just where you're at. I get it. Look, our sales manager, she's from Detroit, loves her Wolverines, even though she can't name 3 of the players. She was like all upset. I said, enjoy your national championship. You'll be the defending national champion until next January. So enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy what you had. Because it's probably not going to come back for a while. All right, it's football in the 1 o'clock hour. Our Lawyer Lisa Special Teams contest it's back. Go to 1075thegame.com. Look at the little flippy thingy at the top. When you see Lawyer Lisa Special Teams contest, you click on it, you fill out the form, and you hit submit. This week, the pot is now up to $300. So if the Gamecocks do score a special teams touchdown, we will do a drawing at 7:30 Monday morning on the early game. And if you did submit, then you have a shot to pocket the dough in the pot if South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown. The Lawyer Lisa Special Teams contest from Lawyer Lisa and us folks here at the game. NFL got cooking. First big week. Some things never change. We'll get to that next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on a Reaction Monday on the game.
down for the interception.
Yeah. Tough day at the office for Carolina. Panthers.
You know, at least they're consistent.
Yeah.
I'll give them that.
Wow. 47-10 Saints.
And here's the thing: the Saints aren't that great of a team.
They're not anything special.
So
I think that's if I'm a Panthers fan, which thank God I'm not, it's not so much getting whooped. It's getting whooped by a mediocre football team.
well, and look, nobody's going into this season expecting the Panthers to suddenly become a 10-win team or anything like that, but you want to see signs of progress. And if I were to, blindfold you and tell you the results of this game compared to just about any game the Panthers had a season ago, would you have been able to tell the difference? No.
No, and I think that's a disappointing part. And, you're right. Nobody expects all of a sudden Bryce Young to be Peyton Manning. But you want to see some improvement. And Bryce Young, struggled just like he did last year with a lot of things. Accuracy on the run, I don't know, going through progressions, reading coverages. Just 2 more interceptions, and both the interceptions shouldn't have been interceptions. Only 13 of 30 throwing the ball. And Xavier Legette had 4 grabs for 35. But, again, some of the same stuff with Bryce Young you saw last year, you saw this year, the offensive line. Let me see how many pressures and let me see how many sacks and hits that New Orleans had.
He was sacked 4 times.
4 times.
Which, that's better than they did in some games a year
true.
ago.
And hit 5.
Yeah.
So maybe there was a slight improvement. You got to be, I know that a Panther fan will go, yeah, really? Bleep you. Yeah, I guess you got to be patient and let it play itself out. I think the receiver core, adding Legette, what's Jonathan Mingo ever going to be? He was a second-round pick last year. They're hoping he'll be better. You added Deontay Johnson, who I like. Johnson only got, 2 catches on 6 targets. I just looked up this today. It's just, I thought they would at least show better on offense than they did. Now, David Canales has done really nice work with quarterbacks in the past. Geno Smith in Seattle, Baker Mayfield in Tampa. So, again, you take a breath, and hopefully as this thing goes along, it'll get better. But guess what?
My concern, and yes, I understand that's why Canales got hired. He only did that within the context of being an offensive coordinator, where his focus could be on, okay, can I get my quarterback better? Now he's running the whole ship. Mm-hmm. So how does he balance that? All right, I'm not only trying to get this guy better before we declare him a bust, which some people already have, and also trying to bring this entire organization out of the mud while my owner's throwing drinks at people up in the luxury suite.
Right.
How does he juggle all this? We don't know.
Right. Good luck. And the idea that here's the list of teams that are also interested in hiring David Canales as a head coach.
Well, I think we were on the air when it was announced that he was hired as head coach, and we just kind of went,
what?
Really?
Yeah, I was just like, he was a quarterback coach in Seattle, 1 year as an OC in Tampa, and then gets hired as the head coach in Carolina. And it's one game, it might work out. But, to your point, now you're the head coach. And look, let's be real. Canales was hired to fix Bryce Young.
Yeah.
That was the gig. You're the head coach that's going to fix the guy we traded a ton of draft capital to take number 1 overall. And so Canales has to fix Bryce Young among the duties of, being the head coach of the football team. And you're right, the owner you never know what he's going to do from day to day because he's such I'm trying to be nice here, eccentric human being.
Careful, he might buy the radio station.
I know. Exactly. So we'll see where this goes moving forward, but it was just, Sunday. I tell you what, this Jacksonville-Miami game was very interesting.
That was fun one. That was a fun one to watch. When Miami finally clicked into gear in the second half and started putting up started putting up yards on offense, and Tyreek Hill avoided going to jail that morning and scored the 80-yard touchdown.
Well, here's the thing about that, and we're going to play that highlight in a second. But what was interesting there is Jacksonville, the previous possession, is inside the Miami 20. ATN carries it down to the Miami 3 and fumbles.
Yep.
The Dolphins recover it, I believe, deep inside their own territory, get the ball at the 20. So, ready? You're going in to take a 24-7 lead if you're Jacksonville. You fumble, and then the first play Miami has the ball, this happens. Hit this, Tyler, because that sequence changed the entire football game because Jacksonville looked like they were cruising, and then they weren't.
In zone 20, it goes back 1st and 10 to a Tagovailoa. Armstead the block, and he's going deep. He's caught Hill. Foot race. Driving. That is 6. Oh, he's a ghost. 80-yard touchdown.
And then all of a sudden, a 24-7 game is a 17-14 game.
Yep.
Miami then kicked a couple of field goals, stole a W at home, 2017. Jacksonville's offense, by the way, that was the only drive in the second half they did anything. After scoring 17 in the first half, Jacksonville went punt, fumble, stopped on downs, deep in their own territory, punt. Offense totally took a crap. And Miami found a way to pull out a W. Tua Tagovailoa threw for a bunch of yards, and the Dolphins come from behind, down 10 to get a win. Very interesting. It was very interesting Sunday in the NFL. And the Cowboys beat Cleveland. In Cleveland, thumped them. Dak gets his deal. We'll see how all the guaranteed money lays itself out. But Dak gets his deal. Of course, Jerry Jones dragged this out so you could do this, the day of the opener. That was pure Jerry Jones marketing machine. You could have done this probably at any point in time in the last few weeks or whatever. But Jerry being Jerry, because he cares more about headlines than he does wins. So Dak gets his, and then Dallas just dissects Cleveland in Cleveland. Ready? Game 1 in Cleveland. Boom!
I was going to say, Dallas is feeling a lot better about their big money quarterback than Cleveland is right now.
And again, Deshaun Watson is... I would honestly rather have Uncle Rico at this point.
Yeah, because one thing, you have the off-the-field stuff, and then you have the on-the-field stuff. Mm-hmm. There's no redeeming qualities right now about what Deshaun Watson's bringing to the table.
No, it's just, obviously the off-the-field stuff. On the field, Deshaun Watson's been a disaster. Let's just call it like it is. And there's that party that thinks, ooh, every now and then karma does show up.
Yes, it does.
Just saying. For Cleveland and Deshaun Watson.
It's going to cost the Browns another $200 million. All
right. Real quick, I didn't get to hear a lot of Tom Brady, so I really don't have an opinion because I only heard a little bit. I heard it was okay, nothing special, nothing great, didn't wow anybody. Wasn't terrible, but he was just a run-of-the-mill analyst on an NFL game.
I enjoyed Greg Olsen more. To be honest, Greg Olsen has that type of personality that translated well. And even Kevin Burkhardt had a good, back and forth, good report. Tom Brady, very smart. Tom Brady knows what he's talking about. But as far as a TV personality, it didn't pop for me.
Well, here's my thing when they hired Brady. I just remember Tom Brady post-game, Tom Brady, just seeing him in interviews. Tom Brady in general is very guarded. Yeah. He's a machine with quotes.
You got to be charismatic.
Yeah, and Tom, it just doesn't come off as like a Greg Olsen or like a John Madden or a Romo or a Gruden or any of these guys who have done well over a long period of time. Is Tom doesn't, to me, have that same pop.
Sure.
Now, could he start to get more comfortable? Like, what's made Troy Aikman really good is Troy Aikman does not care and will criticize anyone.
Yeah.
But he does it in a laid-back way. But Troy Aikman is very honest with his criticism,
yes,
which makes him stand out.
Right.
What's going to make Tom stand out besides, they can't show pictures of him all the time, and people go, oh, wow, he's really good looking.
Right.
We'll see. Firehouse Subtext, the hour coming up, 803-404-6100. Also, we will hear more from Shane Beamer talking about that defense, and we'll check our Twitter X poll as well. It is the halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Our text of the hour is next on a Reaction Monday here on The Game. Get our Firehouse Sub Text the hour here in just a minute. Also, talk to you on Reaction Monday at 803-404-6100. Also, September is Hunger Action Month. The game and Hardee's, we're teaming up. This is really a good cause. It's called Hardee's Roundup. Just go to your participating Hardee's here in the Midlands and round up your bill to the nearest dollar amount. That's all you got to do. All the donations go to the Harvest Hope Food Bank for students. We're helping feed students' lunches in the area. And all you got to do is, if your bill's $6.44, just round it up, 56 cents. That's all you got to do. And we will be out this Thursday in Blythewood at the Hardee's there from 3 to 6 p.m. All right, where's our Firehouse Sub Text the hour there, Tyler? Head at 803-404-6100.
Tim and Sumter says, as a broadcast announcer is the only time you can look at Tom Brady and say he is no Tony Romo.
Very nice. Hey, Romo's first year, he was phenomenal.
He was, I think, either the league or CBS got in his ear and was like, hey, bud, quit predicting plays.
That's what I think happened because he just stopped.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you take that away, he's nowhere near as good. But that first year, man.
Because you remember after the first year, people were like, why isn't this guy up for coaching jobs if he's able to just tell us what's going to happen on the next play?
Yeah, it was, honestly, it was one of the best years of listening to an analyst. Besides, John Madden's the gold standard to me because I grew up listening to John Madden. But Romo, that year, when he was sitting there going, okay, they got 3 trips to the left and 1 to the right. What they're going to do here is, and he would nail it.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, that's good. Somebody got to him.
Yeah.
Absolutely got to him. There's no doubt because he just stopped.
Yeah.
And
you can almost tell he's not having as much fun anymore because of that.
Yeah. Because he was really geeking on it. It was really cool. Very cool. We appreciate the text, like always, 803-404-6100. It's a Reaction Monday. Let's get our buddy Orlando Bruce in here. Bruce, my man, you're on the halftime show on the game. How you doing, pal?
Well, thank goodness you didn't say something about geeking and referring to me, thank goodness, but I appreciate that.
How you doing, boss?
Good. I know you're short on time, so just make this short and sweet. Terry, if you remember the old school football, whenever your defense got to stop, like we did that one time deep in the opponent's territory, what did most offensive teams used to do? You would throw the ball, try to get a quick score. What did we do? We did a dive play up the middle, and I think we lost 2 yards. It's like, yes, we've got to do a lot of cleaning up, but there's areas I think we could be a little more aggressive, especially after we got the ball 1st and 10 at their own 30. So, but second of all, when we have the ball deep in our own zone, and we're throwing the ball over the middle with less than 2 minutes to go in the game before halftime, you don't throw the ball over the middle like that. You go to the outside. That way, if you overthrow it, it goes out of bounds. You don't turn the ball over and give away points. So that's an area I think we need to work on. And the homer call of the weekend, I don't know if you caught it or not, but that Notre Dame game against Northern Illinois, that Northern Illinois player got the first down. The refs gave them Notre Dame a chance for the guy to kick the field goal and hopefully miss it. Because if you look at the replay on that, he definitely got the first down.
It's interesting. That game was in South Bend, Bruce.
Imagine that.
Wow.
But like I said, it was the homer call of the weekend. If you go back and look at the replay on that,
it was pretty egregious.
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw the replay. You're right. You're right, Bruce. You nailed it, my man.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Good talking to you, Orlando Bruce, our buddy Bruce.
By the
Appreciate
way,
you.
know who missed that field goal for Notre Dame at the very end?
Who was that guy?
That'd be Mitch Jeter. Now, to be fair,
62.
It was a 62-yarder. That is asking a lot of any college kicker.
Yeah. Yes.
But still, if you wanted extra enjoyment out of that, that is the former South Carolina kicker, Mitch Jeter.
Yep. Missing the 62-yarder for Notre Dame. I did see that highlight. I'm glad Bruce brought it up. But yeah,
so for those that weren't there with us at O'Hara's, they have all the TVs. Where Arkansas and Oklahoma State are playing in overtime. We're waiting on that game to end so we can watch the beginning of the South Carolina game. We're watching on our phones.
Right.
Because the game was on ESPN News or whatever. On the other end, you have Notre Dame and Northern Illinois that were leaning over because at the other end of the wall.
Stretching our neck.
And I'm like, the Northern Illinois 16-14 lead, 2 minutes left. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and Look, because you kept saying, I remember the first time you said, because we're looking at the scores, and you were like, Northern Illinois still hanging around.
Well, because it was like a 14-13 game for the longest time. It was like, all right, you'd think Notre Dame's going to get like a touchdown or two and kind of pull away, but like, no, Huskies hanging in there.
Like do what Bama did. Right? I mean, Bama was in a football game with South Florida until halfway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and then they just poured it on at the end.
And just blew them out. And you figured at some point Notre Dame was going to get that nail in the coffin touchdown and take out Northern Illinois.
Nope.
Never happened. Again, props to Northern Illinois. Huskies, that was nice. Unless you're a Notre Dame fan. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry coming up at 2 o'clock. Reaction Monday here on the game. Feel free to jump in 803-404-6100. Love Chevy phone line, Firehouse sub text line. We'll hear more from Shane Beamer and the players about a great win at Kentucky. That is coming up next. Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game.
Brown, a backup tight ends in the ball game. Josh Simon goes in motion that way. Pump fake from Sellers. Down the field to the end zone and gone.
That's it.
Touchdown, Carolina. That is touchdown, Josh Simon, I believe, who went in motion. It is Simon's first touchdown catch of the year. He had a career-high 7 receptions against Jacksonville State a year ago. It gets a big one here for 16 yards out. The extra point will make it 17-6 Gamecocks.
All right, there is Todd Ellis on the call along with Tommy Suggs on the Gamecock Sports Network. Heard it here right on your flagship home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, also 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. South Carolina curb stomps Kentucky in Lexington on Saturday, 31-6. We now know what time the Akron game will be, Tyler Head. Go for it.
That is correct. So we just found out in the last hour that will kick off at 7:30. It'll be televised on ESPNU. This isn't as big of a deal as it used to be with the 12-day window where we literally did not know anything until 12 days before. They gave it the time window of 6 to 8 o'clock. They were just waiting on the network and the specific kick time. So the first night game of the season at Willie B will be 7:30 next Saturday against Akron.
Very nice. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on the game. 2:15-ish, you will hear Mark Stoops. His thoughts post-game. The Mark Stoops statement after the Kentucky, the South Carolina whipping of Kentucky on their home field at Kroger. Much to the delight of the crowd. The crowd was so excited and stoked.
Did he pound a table like Brian Kelly?
He should have pounded a lot more than a table.
Maybe a couple beers afterwards.
Yeah, he should have did during the game. But yeah, I mean, it was so. We talk about the opening riff of the show. You want to talk about a cocky fan base and an overconfident fan base.
Oh my God.
There was a couple players leading up to the week, Kentucky players talking about, well, we think we kind of let one slip away last year in Columbia. We left some plays on the field. We lost that game more than South Carolina wanted. Blah, 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 blah. Can't say that this time.
See, that's what I was talking about. When you have a narrow margin of victory against a team that you consider to be a rival, there's always going to be an excuse on the other side. Like, well, if we hadn't done this, if this penalty didn't get called, blah, blah, blah. When you beat a team by 25 points on their own field and just, choke them into submission the way South Carolina did, there's no getting around that. Again, they are having to look internal and say, what's wrong with us? Mm-hmm. Which is what they're doing.
Well, they have to. Because, again, you basically got boat raced by the score wasn't indicative how bad you got beat.
No.
And you got beat at your own game. And that's the other thing. It's one thing if a team imposes, like, their identity on you and they beat you their way.
Sure.
But South Carolina came in and said, oh, how do you like to play? Good, we're going to beat you at the way you like to play.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's what South Carolina did. And, Shane talked about it in that cut we played last hour about being physical. And South Carolina was plenty physical on Saturday against Kentucky. Let's grab a little Shane Beamer here, Tyler. Let's, where's the one I wanted? Oh, yeah. Let's, first of all, let's get to this. The 4th and 1 stop was big. Kentucky went for it in their own territory on 4th and 1 and got stonewalled by the South Carolina defensive front. I couldn't tell you what guy did it because there was 60 guys standing there for South Carolina on that 4th and 1 play to slow down the quarterback sneak. So here's Shane, cut 9, talking about that 4th and 1 stop.
Especially because of the respect we have for Kentucky, particularly up front. They're a physical football team, and to be able to, it's 4th and short. Everybody knows they're gonna run it right up the middle, either quarterback sneak or something, and to be able to control the line of scrimmage, knock them back, and get a stop there was huge. About just a statement about what we're about up front. And then also, 2 4th and 1 plays to me that were huge, or 4th and 2. We drove off sides on that one with Brady Hunt, did an awesome job coming in there, and that was a big play because I believe that led to a touchdown right after that as well.
All right, so, the 4th and 1 play was huge, and that led to, I really believe that led to when Kentucky had the one drive, they had the whole game. No, I'm sorry, after they got the interception off of Lenore Sellers, and they had I'm getting my drives mixed up. No, it was when they had the long drive. They had a 3rd and 4, deep in South Carolina territory, and they ran the ball because they had no confidence in their passing game. Then they had a 4th and 2, and you go for it 4th and 1 in your own territory. You think it had to go through your mind to go for it 4th and 2 deep in South Carolina's territory.
Right.
But Stoops looked at the way the score was. No, I'm not messing with it. I just give me some points.
Sure.
I think if you don't get that stop on 4th and 1, they might actually try to go for it on 4th and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that affected a lot of things in this football game as well. But it was that's one of the many key plays in the victory was that 4th and 1 stop in Kentucky territory, which led to a South Carolina field goal when Lenore Sellers went out of the game. Now, we're going to have our injury report coming up between now and 3. Shane Beamer talks about Sellers and how he's doing after it was a lower body injury is what it was called. And Shane said it on the broadcast. It was a lower body injury. We're going to get to our injury report here in just a little bit and give you the what Shane said about the Lenore Sellers injury deal. All right, also, Shane talked about, and let's get to it. We've been talking about this one, and we're going to get to it now, cut 12. Shane, in his opening statement after the win, talked about the lazy narratives being posted this week.
We said coming on the road, you've got to have great toughness, check. You've got to have great physicality, check. When adversity hits, you got to have great composure, check. And then great togetherness. And we showed that as well. And we talked about getting that ball, getting the game into the fourth quarter and finding a way to win it. And we absolutely did. I love you guys. I think you're fantastic at the jobs you do. But frankly, there were some really false and lazy narratives out there, guys, this week. There was perception coming out of the Old Dominion game, and I get it. It wasn't great. Nobody thought we were going to win 4 games. But not just you guys, everybody out there. I get it. That's why the line, not that I pay attention to gambling lines, but that's why the line continued to get bigger this week, I think, for Kentucky as the week went. I apologize if I just completely violated all protocols, Commissioner Sankey, but there wasn't a lot of belief in this program or in this team coming in here to be able to do what we just did against a really good team that has a veteran defense, I think 10 returning starters, great players, high draft picks, talented receivers. But I told our team on Tuesday that there's perception and there's reality. And the reality was we got a good football team. Reality is that we played really good defense against Old Dominion last week. Reality is we started 3 true freshmen on offense last week and a redshirt freshman quarterback, and they would continue to get better. Reality is that we're really good on special teams, and we got a big-time punter, as we showed today. And ultimately, reality is we got great belief. The 74 young men that came up here, the coaches and staff, this isn't like some surprise. We truly, expected to win this football game, knew it was going to take a lot, knew it was going to take all of us, all 74, and we certainly were able to get it done.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of the week and some of the. And look, again, I said this at the beginning of the show. If you're Shane Beamer and you have that kind of win that a lot of people didn't see coming, should you flex? Absolutely, you should. If you heard some lazy narratives about your football team and you didn't think it was fair and you want to talk about it, totally with you. If you use that as motivation, very good. Excellent. I just don't know. And look, I didn't pay attention to every media member and everything they said, and I didn't listen to every second of this radio station. But I don't know who went overboard on a narrative of coming off the Old Dominion game. I think there was people who were really concerned about the offense and concerned about the offensive line and concerned about Lenore Sellers and the wide receivers and all that going into a game against a defense that was better than Old Dominion's. I thought that was a legitimate question. Not just media members were asking, the fan base was asking. I see our Twitter X polls from last week. There wasn't a lot of confidence. I don't think anybody disrespected the defense except you had the 2 big busts that led to Old Dominion scores. We even said it here on the show. Besides those 2 big plays, Old Dominion didn't do much of anything on offense. Now, again, you have to clean up those 2 plays. Sure you do. But those are plays you could clean up. One was a coverage bust out of miscommunication. The other was guys didn't stay in their rush lanes. I don't think anybody was saying the defense didn't play well. I don't know. Maybe there were some people that went overboard after the Old Dominion loss. Said, they're going to win another game all year. I don't know. We did say, and I know we said it here on this show, that you got to play better or you're going to be in a lot of trouble in the SEC. But to Carolina's credit, they did play better. played much better on offense. Still a work in progress, but much better. And the defense just they just took Kentucky apart. What they did play by play against the Wildcats, I mean, you beat them physically, you beat them mentally. I mean, you just kind of like took away their heart, soul, and their will. So, I mean, again, there might be some people out there that went overboard in what they said last week. I didn't hear and listen and read everything, but I thought most of what I heard was fair questioning of what's going to happen in Lexington if you play the same way you did against Old Dominion. But, again, if you're Shane, you deserve to sit there and go, okay, 10% of anybody thought we were going to win this game. We know we're good. We know we're better than people think, and we showed you tonight. And you should feel that way. Absolutely. You deserved it. What that coaching staff and those players and that program did on Saturday on the road in the SEC to a Kentucky team that'll probably end up being about what a Kentucky team is. They'll go to a bowl game. They'll win 6 or 7. And because that's Mark Stoops, what South Carolina did was damn impressive. And you should, puff your chest out a bit after that, all of you, because you deserve it. Phenomenal win. Phenomenal win. Next segment, we're going to hear from Mark Stoops. Hear his opening statement after the loss. Because there is a ton of people in Lexington, Kentucky who are stunned, including the head coach, on how bad they got whooped. It's one thing to lose, but to lose, basically get beat at your own game and have someone come into your house and do what South Carolina did in your house to you in front of everyone. If you're Kentucky, you got to be scratching your head, especially when you had so many people going into the game on Saturday. Well, after Kentucky beats South Carolina, game day will be here for Georgia, and Georgia better look out what's coming. And now you're sitting around wondering, okay, how do we get the buyout money for our coach? Which I think is pretty interesting. So that was Shane talking about the narratives of the week. Let's get one other one in here, Tyler, before we bounce out. Shane talking about the passing game, Kentucky's passing game, that the South Carolina defense did take away. Let me see. We better not do that one. It's a little long. Let's hold that one. We will hold that one. We'll get that one and Mark Stoops' post-game talk coming up next as we roll through the 2 o'clock hour. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Shane Beamer tomorrow, 1 o'clock right here on the Game in Columbia at 107.5. Shane Beamer, Carolina Calls Thursday night here in Columbia and at our affiliate 100.3, the Game in Myrtle Beach. So a lot of Shane this week as he'll talk about the win over Kentucky and the upcoming game against LSU. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head working up until 3. Then Jay and Elijah will take over. Post-game show here on a Reaction Monday on the Game.
Ball on the Gamecock 24-yard line. Half the field in shadows in this area. Clemson takes a snap, looking left side, quick slant route into coverage. There is a pick. Jalen Kilgore run out to the 25-yard line. Oh, in 2 straight series, the Gamecocks come up with interceptions. One was a pick 6 by Eman Worry, and now Jalen Kilgore gets his second on the year.
There we go. Jalen Kilgore, a very nice start to his season for Kilgore. There's the interception, another bad Vandergrift throw. There was a lot of those on Saturday.
Yep.
Again, we said it last week. Old Brock didn't get a whole lot of heat against Southern Miss. I think he was only pressured on 4 of his dropbacks.
Yeah.
He got a lot of heat on Saturday, 65% or 64% of his dropbacks per Pro Football Focus. Vandergrift was pressured by the Gamecocks.
And I noticed even in the times when you did have the opportunity to get the ball off, particularly when he threw those 2 interceptions, he was just staring down receivers. I mean, Eman Worry, Kilgore, it just seemed like they were reading his eyes the entire time, which again is one of those things that as a guy in college up to this point hasn't had a lot of opportunities to get out there and play meaningful snaps except for these past couple weeks, and isn't quite living up to that 5-star billing just yet.
Not right now. All right. We'll get to you at 803-404-6100. Hang in there for a minute. Let's get Shane Beamer talking about taking away that Kentucky passing game. It's cut 16 there, Tyler. Shane talking about how good the defense was in basically choking out Kentucky's pass offense.
First of all, we're really good up front on defense, and we knew that, I'll put our front 7 up against anybody, and so we knew that we were going to be able to, generate some pressure on the quarterback, and starts anytime you play these guys. Anytime you play any game, it always starts with stopping the run. But we needed to control the line of scrimmage. We felt good about our ability up front on defense to be able to do that, Jack. And then certainly, Brock is a really good quarterback, Vandergrift, and I've talked about how hard we recruited him at Oklahoma. He's a talented guy, but this was his first SEC start too. And it ain't just Lenore Sellers that's a young quarterback. Brock may have been in college for a long time, but outside of the Georgia defense that he faced in practice every day, he's never played against a defense like ours in a game as the starting quarterback. So we really just wanted to, just give him a lot of different looks and really do a good job of disguising coverages and just staying on the attack. And they make it tough on you because they shift, they motion, they give you a lot of unusual formations. So that's one thing we talked about in our staff meeting this morning with the staff, that I told Clayton, don't let the shifts and motions and all that, what they do offensively, take away our aggressiveness. We need to be on the attack from the get-go, and we absolutely were, and made it, really, really, really tough on them to do things. Holding the 183 yards of offense, so great job.
Oh, yeah, it was a great job by the South Carolina defense, absolutely. So there's Shane talking about how well South Carolina took away the Kentucky passing attack. Here's Mark Stoops, head coach at Kentucky.
Should I get the violins ready?
Yes. It was Mark Stoops sat down, and to his credit, hey, no excuses, man. Here's Stoops.
Last week after our game, I sat here and said I hadn't been through anything like that in my time here, and this week I could kind of feel the exact same way. We've been beaten, pretty badly by some really good football teams, and but I felt like our team always fought back. Always, we talk about it all the time. You get punched, you get hit, you swing back, and very disappointed, and not happy with us, our coaching, our response, the way we played. Last week I thought, under all those chaotic circumstances, we played relatively clean, like we've coached them. And today it didn't look like we're a very well-coached team, and it didn't look like a team that really wanted to respond. And no coach speak here. That's 100% on me, and on us. No excuses. they beat us in every facet, and we didn't respond. We didn't play very good. We didn't coach very good. And we have a lot of work to do, and it's up to our team how we respond and how we bounce back. So I know the coaches will clearly put a lot of this on our shoulders, and it's on us to get our team to compete at a higher level, to execute with focus and have some disciplined execution, because there wasn't a lot of that today. And need to get back to work. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. We got our butts beat, and we'll keep on swinging back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you take out of that from Stoops is we didn't fight back.
No, they laid down and got trampled.
I mean, the guys in Anchorman fought harder in the alley than Kentucky fought in this football game.
Maybe they needed Trident?
Yeah.
Is that what Brick had?
Trident, yes. All right, it's a Reaction Monday, 803-404-6100. Casey's been holding. Casey, thanks for hanging. You're on the halftime show in the game. How you doing?
I'm trying to stop laughing. Just hold on. That was funny. Oh, man. So all this, let me preface, is predicated on how good our defense is doing. So let me say this. When it comes to LSU, their offense is not what it was. They are not the threat that they was last year. And because our defense is doing so good, they will allow our offense a chance to beat LSU in a close game, something like 24-10 this coming week. I don't know how much we're going to win after that, but LSU will experience a loss by my Gamecocks this coming week. My prediction. Hope you fellas have a good one.
Oh, thanks, Casey. Appreciate you, my man.
Write it down on Monday,
Casey's
226. Casey's got the prediction.
Over LSU. LSU did. They replaced a quarterback and a couple wide receivers to the first round of the NFL draft. So we'll see. I think, again, they bring up 4 or 5-star receivers, and they got a highly recruited quarterback who's been sitting around for a few years, and our boy Grant Nussmeier. And so they do bring talent. They have an offensive line that's got a lot of experience. But again, when you watched your defense as a Gamecock fan do what they did on Saturday on the road, you swell up. It's okay. You're thinking, okay, bring it on, LSU. Let's see what you got.
I'll say this. If the pass rush can look as good this weekend as it has the past 2 weekends against LSU's offensive line, you can do it against anyone.
Yeah, because LSU has their offensive line is experienced, but looked at as better than Kentucky's. Is that fair?
They've not given up a sack yet this season.
They're experienced, but better.
Yeah.
By all metrics. But hey, the South Carolina pass rush has been just coming at you in waves. In waves. All right, greatest day in the history of the world. Next, as we'll take a look at that. Also, the injury report. Really, it's the injury to Lenora Sellers. We'll have Dr. Shane Beamer, give us his lowdown postgame, talking about that injury. A lower body injury is what Lenora suffered and then came back. We'll get to that in our next segment as well. It's a halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. We are hanging here up until 3 on the game. Lots of stuff to get to in this segment, so let's get to it. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. It's a Reaction Monday at 803-404-6100. We're going to try to squeeze you in as well before we get out of here at 3 o'clock. All right, the oldest one and greatest day in the history of the world is kind of boring, so I'm going to go to the second oldest.
Okay.
This day in 1940, Donald McNeil. You remember Donald McNeil, right?
Sure.
He beat Bobby Riggs after losing the first 2 sets to capture the U.S. Lawn Tennis Association title.
Of course.
1940. Now, Bobby Riggs is known for playing Billie Jean King in the 70s, Battle of the Sexes, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Riggs was like 100 years old. Billie Jean King beat him. He was kind of known as a hustler. People thought that he kind of threw that match because of gambling issues and all that. Well, we forget, or we don't forget because we don't know, because most of us aren't that old. Bobby Riggs actually won 3 majors as a tennis player.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was a real high-level dude in his prime. But we just know him as the old guy who lost to Billie Jean King.
Right.
So Bobby Riggs losing on this day in 1940 to the great Donald McNeil. A lot of stuff on this day. We can't get to it all. Sandy Koufax this day in 1965 throws his 4th career no-hitter. Denver Broncos beat the Boston Patriots in the first AFL regular season game in 1960. Arthur Ashe wins the U.S. Open in 1968. Also, Tom Brady started his 300th career game on this day as well in 2021. That's just some of the many things that was going on today, the greatest day in the history of the world, September 9th. All right, let's get a quick injury report in here, Tyler. Dr. Shane Beamer will give us an update on Lenora Sellers in his postgame on Saturday. Let's hit it.
Time now for the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm Injury Report.
When you're hurt at work or in an accident, Samuels Reynolds goes to work for you. The Samuels Reynolds Law Firm. True injuries, true lawyers. 779-4000.
Yeah, he's okay. He got kind of just banged up a little bit on that first touchdown drive, actually. And Clint, the training staff, brought him in here, kind of worked on him a little bit, and he was able to come back out. I'm sure he's not feeling great. I'm sure he's going to be hurting tomorrow, but, awesome toughness by him. And then credit, proud of Robbie Ashford for coming in and moving the football and doing a nice job when he was in there also.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things here. Yeah, Sellers, I think Shane said on the broadcast when he was talked to on the sidelines, a lower body injury.
Mm-hmm.
Sellers came back. Robbie Ashford, it's what you want a backup quarterback to do. Don't screw anything up.
Sure.
Play your game to your strengths, and to South Carolina's credit, Dow Loggins and the coaching staff, they didn't ask Ashford to do what they know is not a good idea to ask Robbie Ashford to do. He had a couple nice runs, led to a field goal.
Yeah, he did. When you just keep the ball in his hands and let him use his athletic ability, you can get some things out of him. So, and credit to Robbie Ashford for handling this whole situation up to this point with, a lot of grace. Because, again, he's a guy that transferred in that wanted to come in here and obviously have the starting job for himself, didn't get it, but from all indications, he's been a good teammate, good backup quarterback, and when his number got called, he went out there and did what he needed to do.
If you watch the broadcast, when Lenora Sellers throws the pick, the first guy to come over to him?
Robbie Ashford.
There you go. It is Reaction Monday, 803-404-6100. Let's grab a quick call. Jeff has been hanging in. Jeff, thanks for calling the halftime show on the game. How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. How about you, Terry?
Hanging in there myself, man. What you got for us?
Well, I'm calling from Aiken, and I don't get to go to the home games and all that much. But the point is, I'm very happy with what happened because I hate to admit it, but I just really thought we were going to Kentucky to get our butts whipped.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my friends that are Gamecock friends, thought the same thing. But anyway, I got 2 questions for you. One is about Carolina,
mm-hmm.
and that is what has happened with Luke Doty, whether it be quarterbacking or receiving. What is going on with him?
I just think that obviously he's fallen into a numbers game, first at quarterback and now at wide receiver, I think, Jeff, to where he just has guys who are the coaching staff looks at as better than him. And I think that's what it is. Luke Doty's a great athlete. He was a great athlete in high school. It's just I don't know how much of all that athleticism has, moved over into football. But to be fair, he was a quarterback for a while. Then he got moved to wide receiver. Maybe if he'd have came in and been a wide receiver his whole career, Jeff, we'd see him. Who knows what he could be. But he kind of started there late, and he's trying to catch up. And as a quarterback, I don't know. You guys might have saw a lot more Luke Doty than I did, but the small sample size I saw Luke, he didn't look like naturally instinctive as a quarterback. And he saw a bunch of guys pass him in that position, so they moved him. I just think he kind of fell into maybe that jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation right now, the way his career's laid out. But he's a heck of an athlete and a great leader, they say. He's a great locker room guy.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But, okay, well, my last question, and I know this is going to sound silly, but if you'd explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old, but I got to watch my Dolphins, my first NFL game yesterday. Mm-hmm. And, we won barely, but it don't matter whether it's 1 or 100. But what in the world is this new kickoff thing, and why? My God. I could not believe what I was seeing.
Jeff, it's kooky. And thanks for the call. We'll explain it.
That is
Appreciate it.
Dynamic kickoff that the NFL has introduced this year. And if you didn't watch any of the preseason, it was probably a bit of a shock yesterday, watched for the first time. But it was a way to make the kickoff matter again.
And you had a kickoff return for a touchdown.
You did. DJ Dallas in the Arizona-Buffalo game yesterday.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing it's kooky out to me, Jeff, is you've got to tell everyone you're going to onside kick, which to me is hilarious. It happened.
Did it happen?
It happened. I forgot. Oh, what game was it that the coach had to tell everybody they were going to onside kick?
That is kind of weird.
Blanking. But yeah, it did happen on Sunday. And Jeff, basically it's done to A, continue to have player safety, but B, try to bring the kickoff back into the game. There's a bunch of goofy rules. There's a zone you got to get the ball kicked into. Yes, Jeff, it's crazy. Not going to lie to you, my man.
It's going to take some getting used to. I like the fact that the play matters again.
They're trying, yes.
I'm interested, like with Kansas City the other night, they just told Harrison Butker, boot it out of the end zone. We're not even going to give him a chance. And I'm intrigued to see as the weeks go by, because the touchback goes to the 30 now, and the average return's like the 28.
Right.
So it's like, well, we can just cut our losses and just touch back the thing. I'm interested to see how that evolves as the season goes along.
It's very weird. I mean, I'll give them credit. They're trying to get the kickoff back in the game with still wink, pretending they care about player safety.
Sure.
So, Jeff, that's what they're doing. It's going to take for all of us to get. I'll be honest with you. Even if you think there's things about this new kickoff rule you really don't understand.
Right.
It's bizarre. All right, time to get to our grill of the game, Tyler. That's our little feature about either it's a big play, a big hit, whatever the case, but the grill of the game. Nail it. Go.
Now he's got the sunlight right in his face, facing the west part of the stadium. Fakes inside, going to roll left. Trying to go down the field and into coverage and picked off at the 30-yard line and turning the corner at the 20. At the 10, that's Eben Worry into the end zone. Touchdown, Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Touchdown, Nick Eben Worry.
No flags.
25 yards out. Big Blue is going from the bleachers to the parking lot right now with 14:49 to go in the ball game.
Yes, to me, that was, I thought the nail was in the coffin at 24-6, but that was lowering the coffin and putting dirt on it. The Nick Emanwari grill of the game. And, geez, who's sponsoring the grill of the game? Go for it.
Grill of the game.
Sponsored by Jack Oliver's Pool, Spa, and Patio. Your source for Weber, Traeger, and Big Green Egg Grills. Quality patio furniture and hot spring spas. 3303 Forest Drive and JackOliverPools.com.
And yeah, the Emanwari play, the pick six. Nick played really well. The whole defensive backfield was good. I mean, DQ Smith stepped up and was solid after a tough first week. Kilgore, another back-to-back good weeks for Jalen Kilgore. Nick Emanwari, obviously, probably arguably the best game of all the guys who had good games defensively. Nick really showed up.
Right.
O'Donnell Fortune was played well. I tell you, Judge Collier was solid, but Vakari Swain,
he turned some heads this
weekend.
weekend.
His snaps really popped on Saturday. So thumbs up defensive backfield.
We didn't have to talk about problems at nickel corner.
Didn't have to worry about covering the slot.
Here's the thing. Again, that was a very good receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, it's because the defensive front was getting so much push and you didn't allow Brock Vandegrift to have time to throw. But even still, in the times that he did get the ball out to his playmakers, they didn't really let anything happen.
No, they had the one time Dane Key was open early in the game, and that really was it. Because Vandegrift was not very accurate, and when he tried to make a throw near a receiver, there was typically a South Carolina DB right there in the neighborhood. So excellent game for the secondary, for the whole defense. The interior of the defensive line was really good. Just all around defensively, a smothering performance by the Gamecocks. Jay Phillips, we'll try to yip with Jay for a little bit. Also, our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. It is a Reaction Monday right here on the Halftime Show all day long here on The Game. Again, Shane Beamer speaking to the media tomorrow. You'll hear it right here on The Game in Columbia, your home of the Gamecocks. Thursday, Carolina, 1 o'clock, by the way, Shane's presser. 6 o'clock Thursday, Carolina calls here in Columbia, and also our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 100.3. So a lot of Shane this week you'll be hearing tomorrow and Thursday. Real quick, our Twitter X poll, Game Ball. Right now, Dylan Stewart leading the way, 60% after 215 votes. Second is Nicky Manwari. Third, Mazio Bennett. Fourth is Lenora Sellers. 1,300 folks have viewed it. 215 people have voted. Thank you very much so far. Who would you vote for, Jay Phillips, if you had to vote for a Game Ball? Out of those four.
Stewart, I do. And I think Stewart may be one of those votes that encompasses the entire front. I mean, they had 11 tackles for loss. They had 5 sacks. They continue. I mean, I don't want to give too much away because I've got a little thing I prepared, so I'll save it for a few minutes now. Y'all can hear the rest of my thoughts, but he's getting a lot of love from the national folk.
I'll tell you this, that going through 3 blockers and putting heat on Brock Vandergriff was a moment.
I mean, legitimately, he might be the best freshman in college football right now. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but I'm struggling to think of any that are making the impact that he is 2 games in.
So last week we saw, and I saw this on Josh Pate's show. Last week, let me get it right. He was the highest rated just defender in the country on PFF.
Yes.
In terms of their numbers.
And what he did as an edge defender, especially as a freshman in his first game, is unheard of.
And then today, Josh Pate said, and I believe I have this right, that he's now got numbers 2 weeks in a row that have him basically grading out as the best defensive player since like 2020.
Yes.
Just in terms of how the PFF numbers grade him. I mean, and if I may, and you, sir, Mr. Head, will appreciate this, perhaps more than Terry will. And again, I want y'all to. It's a little tongue in cheek, okay? But Tyler, remember a few years back when the Braves had 2 young players named Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna, and they're like, you know what we need to do? We need to go ahead and lock them down now.
Yes, I do.
Lock them down.
I don't know who's in charge of what.
Locking them down. Locking them down.
I don't know that it works the exact same way as it does with Major League Baseball contracts. I know you can't sign a college kid to a 10-year deal, but my advice is that you sit someone down as quickly as possible.
Some representative?
I don't know how it works. I sometimes still don't want to know how the hot dog is made. I know a lot more about how the hot dogs are made in college athletics since I've been working around it in my career. But that being said,
however the hot dogs are made, get them a lot of hot dogs.
And not just a hot dog. You get like that super jumbo Nathan's kind, name brand.
And you also get the best bun. You get the best fixins.
Everything.
Well, Terry, like you and I were talking about, his phone's ringing already. There are offers that will be being made.
But guys, no one can call him right now. That would be tampering, and no one would ever do that.
Ain't calling him.
Or calling somebody that
you can't call any somebodies right now. That's
affiliated
just
with
not
him that can
right.
get a certain dollar amount in his ear.
Speaking of honestly, how hot dogs are made.
And there's something we haven't gotten to yet, but since we brought it up, if you're South Carolina, you got to be very proactive in this situation.
I would be
very proactive.
Whatever you got to do, you need to. And so again, I say a little tongue in cheek, but only a little, because again, the Braves looked at Albies and Acuna, and they were like, "Hey, we're no 4-year deal with a team option."
Right.
They signed him to a decade.
And a very team friendly deal, by the way. Yeah. But here's the thing: look, to look at this right now and to be objective, a DMV kid, so he doesn't have connections to the area, didn't grow up here or anything like that. Very humble guy, very hard, not a lot of words, very humble, hardworking guy. But you got to get proactive on this thing. You just can't sit back and go, "Hey, he loves 5 points." You got to get proactive and get it. And even if you haven't gone to said representative yet, you got to be huddling right now, right?
Well, the good news is he's your guy right now, so you can talk to all those people. You're good.
Well, I was going to say, but Buckeye Bob is already putting the briefcase together.
But yeah, he was. Well, I mean, the way he affects games
Buckeye
off the
Bob,
edge is ridiculous.
Bulldog Billy.
Yeah, ready.
Crimson Tide
Aggie
Chris.
Andy.
I don't care.
Aggie Andy.
Whatever kind of nickname alliteration we got here.
So, and so far on the Twitter X poll, game ball for Dylan Stewart. What do you got on the Firehouse Sub? Text the hour, 803-404-6100.
Bobby, apparently Bill and Preston speculated that Sellers' injury might have just been a digestive problem.
We were kidding. I forgot who I was.
Well, it was me and you watching the game because
going,
we've talked about the Lamar thing.
Yeah, because we were talking about Lamar Jackson a few years ago. It was either Sunday night or Thursday night football.
Yeah, it was a primetime game.
It was a primetime game. Lamar starts running the locker room. He was gone for a bit, and he comes back, and they asked him post-game, basically, dude, I had a little issue I had to go take care of. They'd never admit to that. So I wonder, did Lenoris, the lower body, what did the lower body mean?
That is the lower part of the body.
I'll leave that to Lenoris.
Just saying.
Hey, he came back. He played better after it.
Yeah, I tell you, and you're going to get into it deeply, but just the offense still needs work. Obviously, the offensive line still needs work. Obviously, we
talk about the Broncos or the Cowboys or the Gamecocks.
We won't go there for you. At least you got some safeties. That's good news. 2 points. If you got like 30 of those a game, you're really scoring a lot of points.
I was watching in two different rooms, but every once in a while I hear my wife go woohoo because her Cowboys made Deshaun.
They scored again.
Yeah.
Lenore showed us some nice development from week one.
Yes.
We saw some development offensively from week one.
Yes.
And that defense looks suffocating. Game day is going to be here. Carolina's 2-0. What do you got coming up on the old post-game show?
Plenty of continued reaction, and I will leave the Broncos out of it, except for one sliver, probably.
Nice. Tyler, nice work. Post-game show next.